Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, what's my brethren all around the world watching this video? Hope you're having a great day today as watching. Hope everything's good with you. And really, in this video right here, it's another Joshua Wilder video, but we're going to keep it boxing in this video. We're not going to talk about the business. We're not going to talk about the gossip, the news, anything like that. We're going to talk about actual boxing. Oh my God, what a revelation we got here on True School Sports. Let's talk about actual boxing. So I figured in the midst of all this drama and nonsense going back and forth between both their teams, that it would be good to revisit each of Wilder and Joshua's last fights. So expect to see this video right here will be the Joshua. We're revisiting Joseph Parker versus Anthony Joshua. The next video will be revisiting Wilder versus Ortiz. So in this video right here, we're going to revisit Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker. It is worth noting that I did not rescore the fight. I did not do any of that. I really watched the fight more to see just how Joshua reacted to certain things. Certain things he did well, certain things he didn't do well, and I kind of try to take what he did well or not so well in this fight and apply it to how he might use that against Deontay Wilder. So we're going to go through some notes, some things that I noticed during the Joseph Parker fight. Now, in the Joseph Parker fight, I watched the version on YouTube. If you guys go on YouTube, if you type in Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker, you can actually get a version with no commentary where it's just like from a view from inside the stadium. And you can actually get a good sense of what really happened and not have your opinion swayed one way or the other due to biased commentary. So if you haven't checked that out, I would highly advise you to rewatch the fight in that format. But just overall, rewatching this, a couple things jumped out at me. Number one, let me just say that Joseph Parker, he did not get the credit he deserved for fighting the smart, intelligent fight that he did. He was very elusive. I think it was highly, highly unfortunate that he was unable to fight on the inside in the middle rounds. He had a couple of chances on the inside where he was really getting to Joshua's teams and beginning to change the momentum of the fight. But the referee was really piss poor, just a piss poor referee. And he wouldn't let Joseph Parker work on the inside, and he broke him up almost any time there was any sort of clinch initiated. So it kind of sucks for him. But from the Joshua perspective of things, just some things that I noticed about him with this fight, going back and rewatching it with no commentary. So go check it out. Point number one. Joshua is very good at holding his ground, even if he isn't punching. Joshua is a big guy. We know that. He's big, he's muscular. But there were times when Joseph Parker would step in with a jab. There were a couple of times, especially towards as the fight transitioned into the middle rounds, Joseph Parker would come in and he would step in real aggressive with that jab. Early on he was throwing more flicking jabs, but as the fight went on, he started stepping with that jab a little more. And then you saw that what allowed Joshua in many ways to kind of neutralize Joseph Parker wasn't really anything he did as far as punching him or hurting him or anything like that, but it really was something as simple as holding his ground. And I think that's something that, as boxing fans, we need to look at. Sometimes as boxing fans, we don't value the things that are so simple. We value the things that aren't simple. And so something simply that Joshua does very well and did very well in this fight that was allowed him to nick so many rounds was holding his ground, and I was very impressed with that. I will say this about Joshua. When it comes to him just attacking, whether it be just in straight lines, he doesn't really move around a lot as far as side to side. He can be very predictable with his punch selection at times. With Parker, he seemed to be more committed to his jab, but he really wasn't even getting off a lot of as many shots as we're accustomed to seeing. It was more of a economical type of performance from Anthony Joshua, a more mature economical performance from Anthony Joshua. But even when he was throwing punches, like he would just throw these real, you could literally count the amount of times he threw the same combinations over and over again. It was the same movements at the same rhythm with the same speed. And I just think if you're Joshua, if you want to get to that next level, you're going to have to change as far as the different types of jabs you throw. I talked to Stacey McKinley, who's been around heavyweight boxing for years, and he was saying, there's 3 or 4 types of jabs that the great heavyweights like Larry Holmes and Holyfield use that Joshua isn't using, that he could use to really make himself a better fighter. And I think I would tend to agree with him. So I think just throwing different types of jabs, being able to show your opponent more looks, and not just coming in big, bulky, and strong with the 1-2, and then every now and then, if you happen to hit with the 1-2, a hook or an uppercut. I like to see him mix things up a little more, because I feel like if you fight a guy like Deontay Wilder, he may not have the boxing ability you have, but what he does have is he has what I call an 89-point shot. He could be down by 88 points, but he's got that 89-point shot in that right hand that can put you to sleep. So you guys, if you're Joshua, you're going to need to know how to navigate in a manner where you're more unpredictable. So just that's something I noticed. A lot of that, too, could have been due to the fact that Joseph Parker was very, very elusive, not a very easy guy to find in the ring. So that I think that had a lot to do with it as well. In this fight, too, I'll say definitely as the fight wore on, maybe not early on, but as the fight wore on, Joshua did a very good job. If any of you have ever been to a boxing gym, you guys know that when you're trying to find a way to land your jab, it's important to get your lead foot on the inside of your opponent to get what we call that lead foot leverage, which will allow you to win the battle positioning, which will thus in turn allow you to snap that jab out, and then you can work off of it. You can throw the hook, you can throw the uppercut, and it is what it is. So Joshua was able to get the lead foot leverage on Parker as the fight wore on. And I think that was ultimately the reason why he was able to nick so many rounds in the fight. That along with his size and things like that. So it was that. I'll definitely say this too. There was a couple of good exchanges in the middle rounds. Those same rounds where Parker was getting on the inside, having success, and seemed to be changing the momentum of the fight. But I noticed when Joshua throws 3-4 punches, he doesn't always move his head, or his shoulders all that much. Sometimes he could throw a 1-2 hook, or I'm a southpaw, but I'm saying a left, a straight, and then not really be moving his head, and that's dangerous when you fight a guy like Deontay Wilder, because when you're fighting a guy like Deontay Wilder and you get into exchanges, one thing you got to give Wilder credit for, as the years have gone on, as he's matured, as he's had more fights in his career. One thing he's gotten a lot better at is shooting that right hand, making his punches a little bit more straighter, a little more sharper, a little bit more compact, and a lot more powerful. So when you're a guy like Joshua, it's important to, if you're not going to move your head, too far out of range, to at least keep your shoulders nice and relaxed so you can slip, and counter off of that. So just something I noticed on the Joseph Parker fight. Hopefully he can make the necessary adjustments as he moves on in his career. In this fight, Parker was offsetting AJ with a lot of movement up and down. He would take his lead hand, being his left hand. So I'm a southpaw, so I'm his right hand. But he would take his lead left hand, and he would touch Joshua up top, come down to the bottom. Take a step to the right, touch him downstairs, touch him up top, and he was just very elusive the whole fight pretty much. And what that was doing was it was offsetting AJ's movement, and because he was offsetting AJ's movement, he was able to buy himself some time to look for openings. And Wilder is not Parker. He don't move. He can move, but he can't move like a Parker. But I think what Parker showed in this fight against AJ is that if you can move well and simply just, you don't necessarily have to hit Joshua with the jab, but just touch him, move, stay unpredictable, and stay in the moment. You can do that. You can offset his movement for a little bit, make it a little bit more predictable in his attack, which will play into your hands and maybe allow you to find that one big shot or dictate the pace of the fight. So you have that. And also, as a byproduct of this, Joshua, Parker would touch him downstairs, touch him up top, take a step to the right, take a step to the left, after every touch jab. And what was happening was he was getting Joshua to reset a lot. So when Joshua would reset, it would force Joshua to have to be more patient, and it forced Joshua to come in, and he came in a straight line, followed him, and it was very, very predictable. So I think if Parker was able to fight on the inside, he might have found that one really good shot that could have changed the course of the fight. But that was really the difference in the fight. The fact that he couldn't find that one shot that changed the course of the fight. He fought an intelligent fight. He was just missing that one shot. And I think had he had a chance to find the inside, we might have seen a whole different ball game. But there was that. So because Joshua had to reset so much, and he did reset so much, he showed that he was susceptible to counter punches. He showed that he steps in with his jab a lot, a bit too aggressively at times, as well as with his feint. Sometimes he even feints, but he'll feint and he'll fall in. So when you feint and you fall in, you're susceptible to get hit with a counter. And Wilder, as we saw in the latter parts of that Ortiz fight, you might hit him, you might touch him, but he can counterpunch you. And if he counterpunches you the right time once, that's game over for you. Parker found the holes, because Joshua was stepping in real aggressive with that jab or falling over into range with his feints. Parker was able to either touch him with a jab or find some shots on the inside and then step around him and just force the fight to be in a way he wanted it to be. What we'll say also about Joshua is this, man. One thing I do like about him is, he gets his jab, even though he's a bit robotic with his mechanics at times. And this is something with Joshua I've been saying for 3, 4, 5 fights now. He can be a bit robotic at times. But what we have seen with Joshua is, his fundamentals are very on point. His jab gets from point A to point B very quick. It's boom, 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 boom. And it's getting there, it's coming back, getting there, it's coming back. And his fundamentals are just better than Wilder's. And I think that's going to be an advantage for him. The fact that his fundamentals are on point, the jab gets from point A to point B a lot quicker than it does for Wilder. And I think that bodes well for him. Another thing I noticed, and this also even goes back to the Klitschko fight as well. With Joshua, in this fight, he seemed to get better as the fight wore on. When he got into the 7th round, the 8th round, the 9th round, the 10th round, he was still strong, he was still fresh, he was still ready and raring to go. And he was establishing that lead foot leverage. He was finding the range with the jab, and then every now and then he find sometimes with the hook, with an uppercut, he find his way. But with Joshua, we definitely saw from him, in that fight, the fact that he got better during the fight. And in the Klitschko fight, we all know he got better in the latter stages of the fight, which is why he was able to find the right shot, able to hurt Klitschko, and overall end it. But, he had a very tough opponent in front of him. I don't think Joseph Park got the credit he deserved for the performance he had. Had the referee let him fight, I think it would have been a much, much tougher fight for Joshua because he was in there, he was elusive, he was smart. He fought the right fight. I just think, it wasn't his night, unfortunately. But as for Joshua, I just think, he's going to have to be a lot more calculated in his approach because if he's not more calculated with how he approaches Wilder, it might be just a good night for him. But one thing I will say, 2 positives, we'll say from Joshua, 2 positive takeaways from the Parker fight, 3 positives I'll say actually. He got better as the fight wore on. He was able to stay committed to his jab for 12 rounds straight. And I would say he's getting a better understanding of how to get leverage on that lead foot of his to establish his jab. So it all comes back to the jab for Joshua. That's his bread and butter. That's where the fight is won and lost for him. And just overall against Parker, not the best performance in the world, but it's a performance that I think if you're getting ready for a guy like Deontay Wilder or any other top-level heavyweight, it's a performance that you need to have, a fight you need to go through. And, and you guys may have heard me say this at one time or another, but, as some of you may know, I have talked to Evander Holyfield on my fair share of occasions, and he told me, he was like, BT, boxing isn't about dominating every single round. Ideally you want to do that, but see, boxing is only about being that much better than this guy. So in your last fight, you can stop a guy that you weren't expected to stop, and then fight a guy you're expected to stop and knock out and not stop him, and that can be deemed as a bad performance. But really what it comes down to is winning and being that much better than your opponent. It doesn't matter if your performance was here last time and then it drops down here this time. If your performance against this opponent is if your performance is here and your opponent's performance is here and you get the job done, that's really all that matters. It's about being that much better than your opponents. And I think what Anthony Joshua has learned in his last 3 fights, Klitschko, Taco, and Parker, what he's ultimately learning is the ability to win rounds in different ways and be just that much better than your opponent. And I think that's the kind of quality as a heavyweight, as a top-level boxer, as a unified champion who's going for undisputed that you want to have. I think any fighter who learns that subtle but oh so rare art of learning how to win rounds different ways and being just that much better than your opponent, it's an invaluable skill and trait that will take you a long way. A guy that I couldn't stand for years, and still, really, I'm really not a fan of his style, but a guy that did that a lot was Andre Ward. Andre Ward, aside from the clinching and the holding and the headbutt, and we know he did that, it was dirty. But even if you can just take all the way for a second, there was ways where Andre Ward used to, he could box you. He had a decent jab. He could fight mid range. He could fight outside. And every now and then he was a good counterpuncher. He could adapt his style in many ways. And because he could do that, he was able to nick rounds like that. This is not advocating his style. It's not advocating his what happened in the Kovalev fight, but I'm just saying that was a trait that he had that took him so far in the sport. So Joshua, I think, in the heavyweight division has learned that very rare but subtle skill of doing that. So that's just my opinion, some notes I had from the Joseph Parker fight. You guys can let me know what you guys think about his performance from the Parker fight as I revisited it. If there's any key points that you think I may have missed, let me know in the comments down below. Take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single video, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just kidding from Dania. And that's Dania in South Florida, if you didn't know. So if you didn't know, get your map out and learn your geography. But until next time, take care, guys.